Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Friday, February 13th, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy Welsh language music day. On today's show, it is Ohio State and Virginia meeting in a neutral site game in Nashville, Tennessee. The Buckeyes and Cavaliers each have some resume building to do in this one. Ohio State would like to maybe strengthen the foundation and see if we can get a roof above the heads there in Columbus. Virginia, on the other hand, just looking to bolster the resume more than in the NCAA tournament at this point. So this is a big game for both sides. Obviously much bigger, though, in terms of consequences and implications on the Ohio State side. So today we will preview the Buckeyes and the Cavaliers in a matchup between two teams that are going in kind of different directions. Virginia under a first-year head coach where things are going really well. Ohio State, on the other hand, under a second-year head coach and Jake Diebler, obviously, who it's better than last year. Technically, at this point, it is better than last year, but certainly Buckeye fans are left still wanting more at this point. So if you're new here, this is your only Ohio State basketball exclusive podcast, publishing episodes that review and preview every single game Ohio State plays throughout the season. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Like the video if you're watching on YouTube right now. That always helps a great deal. And a 5-star review, that would do the trick. Look, posted a video yesterday, a little controversial for some reason. A lot of people in the comments hiding behind burners, of course, who saying some mean things, even about my clothing for some reason, which I'm fine with that. I don't care. That doesn't affect me in the slightest. But people like that, hey, they may go to the podcast, wherever they listen to their podcast, give a 1-star review, and never listen. And Spotify, Apple, they don't care. They'll let you do it anyway. So let's fight against that, shall we? Let's not swim upstream. Let's just go with the flow and give a 5-star review to the Views from the Shot podcast. And of course, go to Substack, Views from the Shot podcast.substack.com. Subscribe there for completely free push notifications on Ohio State basketball, news, injuries, any updates like that. You can find there, articles as well. It's a great spot to be. So let's get into a preview now. Ohio State and Virginia. I think a lot of fans on the Ohio State side would say, hey, this is a game we feel like we can win. This is a game that on a schedule that has at Iowa and at Michigan State and home to Purdue. In terms of these quad one games, this feels like maybe the most winnable. Is that how I feel? I don't know. But let's get into a preview now, and I'll give you a prediction at the end of the show. We'll see how I feel. Virginia at this point coming into this game 21-3, 10-2 in ACC play. It's really been a spectacular first year for Ryan Odom, their head coach at Virginia. In his first year, he was a head coach at UMBC when UMBC picked up the first ever win for a 16 seed over a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. He then had 2 years at Utah State, 2 years at VCU before arriving at Virginia for this season. So far this year, only losses have come to Thad Matta at Butler on a neutral court. Virginia Tech beat Virginia in triple overtime earlier in the year. That game came in Blacksburg and at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, by the way, a team Ohio State fans need to keep their eye on at this point. Virginia Tech fighting for an at-large bid, just like Ohio State is at this point. And Virginia Tech not really in a horrible spot. They got a big win over Clemson over the past week, so that helps. And then the only other loss on Virginia's schedule so far this year came at home against North Carolina, a game where they led a large portion of that game and just ran out of gas. Kind of similar to some games Ohio State has played this year. Maybe one like against North Carolina where they didn't lead the entire way, but finally got a lead at the end and then ran out of gas or just ran out of basketball IQ or didn't get a timeout called when they thought they should have. Whatever you want to say, Buckeyes share a loss with Virginia to North Carolina. Some nice wins this year for Virginia. They've got a win over Texas. I don't know what to do about Texas this year. Maybe you have a better feel for the Longhorns than I do. I can't figure them out. So it's a good win. I don't know if it's great. They won at NC State. I think that's a really impressive win. Won at Louisville. I think that's a really impressive win. And they also won at SMU. SMU, a team fighting for an NCAA tournament spot at this point as well. And Virginia has won 5 games in a row, so they're hot. All those wins against non-NCAA tournament teams, the likes of a Notre Dame, a Boston College, for example. But that's the quality of the ACC right now, and you can't really fault them for winning games that are on their schedule that they can't choose. So they're hot right now. Later on in the year, Virginia will take on NC State, Virginia Tech. They've got a matchup at Duke 2 weeks from Saturday. So that'll be a big game. Losses maybe on the schedule there for Virginia. Ohio State fans obviously hope that there's at least one loss on the schedule coming up here on Saturday when the Buckeyes and Cavaliers meet. Virginia 18th in the net as of recording, which is games through February 11th. 18th in net, 20th in Ken Palm, and 18th in Bart Torvik. Talked a little bit about Ryan Odom already. Relatively unsexy hire. Didn't get a lot of attention, did Odom, when he came over to Virginia. It's a similar style of play that you're used to under Tony Bennett in some ways. Slow pace, not a lot of threes made necessarily. You will give up some threes, shot blocking galore, very similar to Virginia, and not an overwhelming amount of paint scoring as well. So that's kind of the Ryan Odom way. That's what we've seen from his time at Utah State to VCU and now at Virginia. And now that's what we're seeing in year 1 at Virginia. They've had some excellent injury luck as well, have the Cavaliers. Top 7 minute getters have all played all 24 games in the season this year for Virginia. You look at Devin Tillis, he's playing 17.8 minutes per game. He's their 8th highest minutes getter right now. He missed the first 4 games of the season, and he's been active ever since then. So Virginia staying healthy. They're enjoying health right now, something Ohio State wishes that it could say, but Virginia on its side, they're staying relatively healthy. So let's get into the offense now for the Cavaliers, averaging 81.9 points per game so far this year, 46.3% from the field, 35.5% from the three-point line, and they're 30th in adjusted offensive efficiency, according to Ken Palm. This is an offense that looks really, really pretty. If you've had the chance to watch Virginia at all this year, you've seen some really, really good minutes from them. I would assume you probably tuned into a Virginia, North Carolina game. Maybe you saw Virginia play Louisville. Maybe you saw Virginia play Northwestern. I watched that game live all the way back during, I think, Feast Week. It was in November, I believe. And that was a game where Ohio State's going to play Northwestern. Ohio State's going to play Virginia. Might as well watch it. And that was also a game played in basically a high school auditorium. Not the greatest setting, but it is what it is. This offense, so it is pretty. They will use the pick and roll a lot, and they will use the pick and roll to unlock looks at the rim and then potentially kickouts as well. So the three-point attempt rate for Virginia, it's not Wisconsin, it's not Nebraska levels, but it's still very high at 46.4% so far this year. Excellent spacing, excellent versatility. That lends to getting open looks on the outside. A lot of times it comes from driving and kicking. They've got a couple guys that can hit threes, but overall the versatility is what you see, I think, most prevalent in the Virginia offense. There's a lot of guys who can play in different spots, who can score in different spots, and that versatility really helps them space the floor really, really well. You look at BYU transfer Dallin Hall coming in. He's been super trigger happy. 62.3% three-point attempt rate is really, really high. It's the highest on the team among qualified shooters, but he's only making 31% of his attempts from the three-point line so far this year. He's not shooting a lot, though. The three-point attempt rate is high. He just doesn't take a lot of field goals, so it's not as much as you may think. Not much of a scorer overall. We'll talk about him later and what he does do well. But he's only had 4 games so far this year making 2 or more three-pointers in a game. When he does shoot it, be ready for him to shoot it from deep. Again, highest three-point attempt rate on the team among qualified shooters. There's a couple other players, though, that we should keep an eye on. They have a lower three-point attempt rate, but they still take a nice volume of three-pointers. You got Sam Lewis, you got Malik Thomas, and you got Devin Tillis. So Lewis is really the guy to watch here. He's got multiple games with 4 and 5 made triples. He's a good three-point shooter. You also look at Thomas. He was an excellent scorer at San Francisco last season, a guy who went into the portal, player I liked, never heard necessarily any rumblings that Ohio State was interested here, but he's a guy who I caught some highlights and said, looks pretty good. He's looked pretty good for Virginia so far this year. 3-point percentage, it's at 32.8%, so not great necessarily. He will shoot a lot from there, but overall, it's a player who can score and can light it up on any given night. You look at Tillis coming off the bench, he's making 37.8% of his attempts from downtown so far this year. And then freshman Chance Mallory, he can make shots from deep. So can Tay DeRitter, who is a player who we will talk about here in a little bit as well. If you're Ohio State defensively, you just cannot sag off your man too much and overhelp against this Virginia offense because it will make you pay. The Ohio State defense, it's been good defending the three ball this year. You look at how they defended Wisconsin. You look at how they've defended Nebraska. They've played some really, really good 3-point shooting teams so far this year, and they really haven't gotten burnt all that much across the year. So this is a matchup to watch for Ohio State in this one. Can they continue to defend the three ball well? Because if they can, they're going to have a really good shot to be in this game with 4 minutes left to go in the second half, which I think in a game like this, 4 minutes left to go, you want to be in the game against Virginia. You don't want to be down by 16. Can't let this be a Michigan game at home or even a Michigan game on the road at that point with 4 minutes left. Got to keep it tight. Virginia's going to be the favorite team in this one. They're going to be seen as the favorite. They're going to be seen as the team that should win and all that. So it's going to be tight, I think, in terms of the spread, but still Virginia will be the favorite team. Got to keep it close in the final 4 minutes and give yourself a shot to win. Now, the versatility, the pick and roll, it also leads to shots at the rim. 33% of shots from Virginia come at the rim, basically only shooting it from deep or at the rim. Barely 20% of Virginia's shots this year come from the mid-range or the paint. You look at DeRitter, he shoots a really, really high percentage from the paint, converts a bunch of those as well. Both big men for Virginia, obviously, take a bunch of shots from the rim as well. 63% on shots at the rim this season. That's not bad whatsoever. So they use that pick and roll. First of all, they want to get the paint touches and kick it out for three. But also, if you do get the paint touches, and even the guards, they're crafty. They can make their way into the paint and then score at the rim as well. Again, the spacing is just so good with Virginia. It's hard to crash in. It's hard to overhelp. It's hard even at sometimes to give a dig even on a player at Virginia, because even if you dig once and if it's Devin Royal and you don't have the range, you don't have the speed, you kick it out one more pass because now we're overhelping and we're rotating, and that could lead to threes. And the other thing is that we've seen Ohio State run this extended 2-3 zone, which has all of a sudden gotten really popular across college basketball. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just me noticing it now, but I've seen it way more from several defenses across college basketball this year. So a lot of fans don't like the 2-3 zone from Ohio State. It's being run a lot by a lot of different teams, and Ohio State likes it enough to stay in it for large portions of games so far this year. So Virginia, they'll get shots at the rim, they'll take some threes, and again, with this pick and roll, the assist rate is really, really high because they're continually finding guys who are open. It's one pass to another, rotation, swing pass, whatever the case may be, and you're getting guys who are open and making shots. 59.6% assist rate. That's 89th percentile in college basketball so far this year. This is where Hall really does help out. Dallin Hall, not the best three-point shooter, but he can help out, producing 4.2 assists per game. Chance Mallory, he's been a really good player for Virginia this year. 3.6 assists per game for him. Phenomenal all year sharing the ball for Virginia, but they've really ramped it up once they really kind of enter into conference play. Again, such a versatile offense that outside of the center position, these guys can score from just about anywhere, anyhow. Works really well for Virginia. So that's a lot of the offense. It's a lot of pick and roll. You'll see that, a lot of two-man action. You'll see guys ready to catch and shoot, guys ready to swing the ball and find the open man. Virginia can be a really, really tough offense. Another reason why Virginia is tough to defend offensively. They've got one of the best offensive rebounding rates in the nation, 39.8% offensive rebounding rate. That's third in college basketball so far this year. 14.3 offensive rebounds per game is what they average. They're sixth in the nation in second chance points per game at 15.4 per game. You look at DeRitter. He leads the way along with Johan Grunlow. Probably didn't pronounce that right, but it is what it is. 2.6 offensive rebounds per game for those two players. A few others are averaging over one offensive rebound per game. When you have multiple players averaging those types of offensive rebounding numbers, you have the opportunity to possess the ball more, to score more points, to get those second chance points, obviously. And even I think the play from Michigan in Columbus in that game where Morez Johnson Jr. grabs 3 offensive rebounds, he's just bouncing over everyone on Ohio State and finally scores. I think that haunts Ohio State. You cannot allow that. If you allow one offensive rebound in possession, okay, it'll happen from time to time. But if you're allowing 2, 3, multiple times in a game, that's really going to hurt Ohio State. You've got to be able to reward yourself for defending a possession well enough to where you force a miss. Got to pull down those rebounds. Ohio State, the track record when it comes to the defensive glass, 66.3% defensive rebounding rate against Power 5 teams so far this season. That's not great, but it's not horrible. You look at some of the best Power 5 teams in offensive rebounding rate. Illinois, 6th in the nation among Power 5 teams in offensive rebounding rate. Ohio State only allowed 9 offensive rebounds in that game. Now, to Michigan, they allowed 16 and 16 in those games. Michigan 14th among Power 5 teams in offensive rebounding rate. Washington, 23rd among Power 5 teams. They allowed 9 offensive rebounds. That's not bad whatsoever. And then Oregon and Maryland, 28th and 36th, respectively, in offensive rebounding rate so far this year. They allowed 15 11. So not great, especially against Oregon. Not great against Maryland either. This is a matchup to watch closely on Ohio State's side where they're going to have to defensive rebound. It's going to be a lot of Bruce Thornton, of course. Christoph Tilley's got to stay out of foul trouble, got to be able to stay in the game. Ivan Degovin, he's got to be able to defensive rebound in this one. Amari Bynum, Devin Royal, those guys are going to have to help out as well. This is another game. Ohio State's played a lot of really good teams on the offensive glass so far this year. They're going to have to be aware. They're going to have to work. They're going to have to box out, and they're going to have to grab some defensive boards in this one. If they can do that, that's going to be huge for their chances to win this game. Now, what scares me the most on the Virginia offense? Pretty simple. It's Tater Ritter, okay? This is a player that everyone at Ohio State wanted Devin Royal to be this year. He's averaging 16.1 points per game, 33% from deep on 2.9 attempts per game. I think that's exactly where you'd like Devin Royal to be season long. Now, Devin Royal, his season long 3-point percentage, it's not horrible at this point, but he's just shot so poorly over the past several games that number is really starting to crater. DeRitter, 52% from the field, 8.8 paint points per game. I think if you got those numbers coming in the season, you were told, hey, I'm not going to tell you anything else about this season, but Devin Royal is going to average these numbers throughout the season. You're going to say, oh my gosh, I would love to have that on a guy who we don't know if he can play the 3. Well, you're getting that from DeRitter as a freshman this year for Virginia. He's super smooth. He's ultra skilled with the ball in his hands. Good passer as well. He can score from the 3-point line. Again, he's super efficient there. Doesn't take a lot of threes, but still efficient for the position and the role that he plays as kind of that stretch 4-ish or more modern wing with some size. So he would be the player who scares me the most for Ohio State. I don't know if Devin Royal is on him. I don't know if Ohio State goes more 2-3 zone centric in this game. We'll see what the approach is. That is a player that scares me. If Ohio State can keep him contained, the Buckeyes, again, it increases their chances to win this game. Now, defensively, for Virginia, kind of similar to Tony Bennett's style. Really good. They're going to give up some threes. Excellent in the paint. That's what we see this year in this rendition of Virginia basketball. They're allowing 67.5 points per game so far this year. Teams are 39.3% from the field, 29.4% from the 3-point line, and Virginia 17th in adjusted defensive efficiency so far this year. So the offense is good. The defense is even better at this point. Here's the thing. Number one thing you look at when you look at Virginia's defense is that offenses really struggle to just make shots against Virginia. It doesn't matter where you look. 97th percentile in field goal percentage, 97th percentile in 2-point percentage, and 97th percentile in 3-point percentage. So far this year is Virginia's defense. So it doesn't matter where you look. They're very good at defending the field, regardless of where you shoot from. 37.3% 3-point attempt rate is a little high, so they will allow some shots from deep. But again, making less than 30% of shots are offenses against Virginia from behind the 3-point line. So very, very tough to score on this Virginia defense. Just ask Florida State. I know that's not really like the banner team in the ACC as a program of long-term success and longevity, but Florida State just shot 20% from the field in its last game against Virginia. I mean, I don't care who you have on a roster. That's Florida State. That's in the ACC. Even IU Indy, whatever team you want to look at that Ohio State has played this year, no team has shot that poorly against Ohio State. So the Buckeyes offensively, they're gonna have to fight to make some shots. This could be a frustrating game for Ohio State's offense. Virginia, they don't switch on everything, but they will switch a fair amount thanks to the versatility they have, which means it's going to be hard for guys to get open on screens. You're going to have to, go screen, slip screen, whatever the case may be, to try to find your way open. And sometimes that may frustrate you into taking bad shots. Sometimes that frustrates you and just going to isolation mode. If that's the case, that's going to be a problem for Ohio State's offense. Now, not only that for Virginia, are they really good defending the field? They're really good defending the paint. So they allowed 26.9 paint points per game, does a Virginia defense, a 15.8% block rate. That's number 6 in the nation. Ohio State's coming off a game against UCLA, one of the best teams in the nation in block rate. And USC, I say UCLA there? I meant USC. USC, maybe I did say USC and I just heard UCLA. Doesn't matter. USC. Excellent blocking shots. They blocked 4 Ohio State shots. I don't know how much you can replicate that game in and game out, but I do bring that up because that's a symptom of playing good paint defense, is being able to block shots. A lot of times that's where those block shots come from. Virginia isn't a team with hyper height. They're not great when it comes to just looking at their overall size or anything like that. They're not going to blow you away. They're not going to shock you, but they're able to block shots at a very high rate. Teams shoot 6% points lower than the NCAA average at the rim and 5 percentage points lower than NCAA average in the paint against Virginia. You look at Syracuse. That's the best ACC paint offense that Virginia has played so far this year. Syracuse scored 30 paint points. If you're Ohio State, you score 30 paint points in this game, I don't think you win. SMU, they're the next best in the ACC. They scored 32 paint points against Virginia in their game. Butler, they can score in the paint a little bit. Top 25-ish, I think, in paint scoring among Power 5 teams so far this year. They scored 36. If you're up to 36, if you're up to 38, you got a good chance to win a game against Virginia. So there's some bend there. Here's the thing for Ohio State's offense. In wins, they are averaging 38.4 paint points per game, and losses, 30.5 paint points per game. So Ohio State's offense, whether it's Bruce Thornton, Devin Royal, especially if you can keep him scoring the way that he was, the manner in which he was scoring against USC, if you get that Devin Royal, if you get Christoph Tilley and his efficiency, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Amari Bynum, can he finish dunks? Can he finish layups? That'll be huge for Ohio State. That's definitely a matchup to watch for the Buckeyes in this one. Virginia, I will say, just from watching some games this year, there's not a way to quantify this. They just have a tendency to get beat when teams want to push it. You saw this really in large part, I think the most, at least for me, in the North Carolina game. North Carolina got back in the game against Virginia. Virginia was destroying North Carolina in the first half. North Carolina got back in the game, at least in some part, because they just pushed it against Virginia. And by push it, I mean a shot is made by Virginia. North Carolina, 1 foot behind the baseline, and they're chucking it. And 60 feet later, generally, Caleb Wilson or Henry Vassar, catch a ball, dunk. Catch a ball, layup. And that was it. So Virginia, they're allowing 9 fast break points per game, just over 13% of points allowed come off the fast break. So that doesn't pop out at you. But the way North Carolina beat Virginia in that game wouldn't qualify for fast break scoring in the first place. But this is an area of opportunity for Ohio State. Does Ohio State push it? After a make, does Bruce Thornton grab the ball, flip it off to Devin Royal, get it right back to Bruce Thornton, and he hucks it to Amari Bynum just because they're running down the floor and they're playing with higher awareness and they're stealing a couple buckets from Virginia in this game. If you get 8 points just from that, that's great. However, we haven't seen that from Ohio State at all this year, so I don't know. Maybe they identify it as a way that they can beat Virginia. Maybe not. We'll see. Keys to the game in this one. I look, I have one key to the game, which it's uncommon unless Ohio State is going to play a team that is not great. Sometimes I just have one key to the game. This is a really good team. I think that there's one way that Ohio State can have a really, really good shot to win this game. Okay. Ohio State's going to have to be a pest on defense against Virginia. Here's what I uncovered. In 3 losses so far this year for Virginia, they are shooting 48.4% true shooting percentage and 40.2% from the field. That's not good. Assist rate, 38.9%. That's absolutely horrible. I'm not saying that you necessarily have to force turnovers, and that's how you got to be pesky in this game. That's not really even what caused the 3 losses for Virginia. But you look at Butler back before their injuries, not a bad team whatsoever. North Carolina, they present a lot of length and pressure, and they'll switch. Virginia Tech's defense, not bad at all. Those are the 3 losses that Virginia suffered so far this year. You are going to have to make shooters uncomfortable. You're going to have to make shots at the rim uncomfortable if you're Ohio State in this game for a chance to win, because they're so efficient shooting the ball. They do a great job of finding open guys. You're just going to have to pester them. And that may be in that extended 2-3 zone. You do a really, really good job of not allowing the ball into the corner, not allowing the ball into the paint. And they just got to swing the ball at the top of the key and to the wing and back to the top of the key. And they can't find anything open there. Maybe that's it. Maybe that is forcing some turnovers. I don't know. But the only trend I see in 3 losses from Virginia this year is an inability to shoot the ball and really low assist percentage, which just means you're making them feel uncomfortable. You're maybe getting them out of control at times, and things just are clunky offensively. That's what you need. Outside of that for Ohio State, and I don't really have another key to the game other than that, it's you've got to score in the paint. And I'll get into more, not really necessarily keys to the game, but as I get to my prediction, I'll give some more thoughts on how Ohio State can win this game. Before we get there, let's take a look at what the BIP says. The BIP favors Virginia by 5.5 in this game. So pretty strong favorite. The Cavaliers will be on this neutral site game for Virginia. Sees a total at 145.5. So be advised on that number. So that would be Virginia winning this game, what, 76-70 or something like that is what the BIP would say. So here's the thing. In this game for Ohio State and Virginia, there's really no reason to think that Ohio State can't hang with Virginia. Virginia, higher ranked in the net. Analytically, all the analytics sites are going to like Virginia better. Virginia's got the better record. All of those reasons would lead you to believe Virginia should win this game. There's no reason to think Ohio State can at least contend with Virginia in this game. You look at the Cavaliers, they probably should have beaten North Carolina. You could argue they led for pretty much the entire first half, much of the second half before North Carolina made a push. Neck and neck the rest of the way. North Carolina wins the game by a few points. Now, you look at the common opponents between Ohio State and Virginia so far this year. There's been 3 common opponents, okay? And the numbers would actually lead you to believe, you may think, looking at how good Virginia has been this year, you may think, oh, I'm sure Virginia has handled those common opponents better. Well, here's the thing. Virginia and Ohio State, they played Maryland both this year. Ohio State won by 20 points against Maryland, and it happened just a few days ago. Virginia won against Maryland by only 8. So Ohio State, much more success against Maryland. Ohio State played Northwestern. Virginia played Northwestern. Ohio State won that game by 4. Virginia won by 5 points. So basically a wash. And then the North Carolina game, Virginia lost by 5. Ohio State, you could very easily argue they should have won that game. Ohio State lost by 1.71-70. So if that's the case, you're looking at the 3 common opponents, maybe we should be saying, I think Ohio State has a really good shot to win this game because they performed better in 2 of the 3 games and really close in the 3rd game in terms of the common opponents. By margin alone, Ohio State has performed better against the common opponents. I think a lot of Ohio State fans would say this is one of the most winnable games down the stretch for the Buckeyes of the big games. You look at Iowa, you look at Michigan State, you look at against Purdue. There are some big games still here on the schedule for Ohio State. A lot of people would say this would be the game where Ohio State would maybe have the best shot to pick up that quad 1 win that sticks with quad 1. And it's not a win like it is against Northwestern that sometimes quad 1 sometimes isn't. So Ohio State has a really, really real shot to win this game, regardless of what the analytics may say. Here's how I see it, okay? Virginia, metrically, they're the better team. Virginia, stylistically, I think that they can win in more ways. I'm not certain for Ohio State really how they win games outside of just scoring and winning a lot from inside. So as you look at the keys to the game, number one and only, it's you got to make life tough for Virginia offensively from the field specifically. Ohio State's going to have to score from inside. But as you look at how these teams match up, for example, Ohio State's 2-point offense so far this year, it's number 17 in the nation. Virginia's 2-point defense is 9th. You look at Ohio State's 3-point offense this year, 175th. Virginia's 3-point defense is 11th. So how are you going to score on this team? Effective field goal percentage for Ohio State offensively, 39th. Virginia is 8th. I think that this Virginia defense, along with the fact that the offense is still really good as well, I think that there's just more ways that Virginia can win in a game against Ohio State. And for that reason, I'm going to take Virginia to win. Now, if the spread is 5.5, I got no feel on that whatsoever. But I do think Virginia wins this game, and fans are going to go crazy because there's 31 games in a season, but every game feels like it is the biggest and most important of the year. And I get that. I totally understand that. But just brace for impact if Ohio State loses this game. And if they win the game too, the reaction probably won't be as loud, but just calm for a little bit. Let one game be one game. Let one game be 131st of a season rather than like our entire season wrapped up in one day. So that's what I'll say. I'll take Virginia to win this game. Again, of course, I hope that I am wrong. Well, if you don't have a Valentine, just let me know. I'm happy to send you one. Virtually, physically, doesn't matter to me. I have no preference there. I hope you enjoy your Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoy a wonderful day of college basketball, both today on Friday and on Saturday. And I hope our Valentine's Day ends happily with nothing other than an Ohio State win over Virginia, a quad one win, a signature win, a huge win for the Buckeyes resume. Until next time, thanks so much for listening to today's show. I hope you feel prepared for the Buckeyes and the Cavaliers. Until next time, I shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.